Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the Crisis Communication Solution. My name is Conor O'Keefe. As a bit of an introduction, I've been working with version 1 for just under 2 years now, and I have had the pleasure to work in the Office 365 and Power Platform team. Today, I'm going to share the Crisis Communication Solution created by Microsoft with you and how you can get it deployed in your tenant. Before I start, today's webinar will be available on demand after this session and is accessible through the same link that you're using now. We've also added some links that you can find at the bottom of your screen. There you can find the assets that will be used today and other related content. So without further ado, let's get started. So a couple of weeks ago, as news of COVID-19 cases spread globally, Microsoft pulled together a team to help customers coordinate their own information sharing and team collaboration in response to the evolving conditions in these times of crisis. A couple of days later, Microsoft released the Crisis Communication Solution. The solution combines capabilities of Power Apps, Power Automate, Teams, and SharePoint. It can also be used on the web, mobile, or as a custom app in Teams, which we'll be doing later. Some of the key features of this app will include that employees can report their work status and they can also make requests. This can help managers coordinate across their teams and help management track status across an organization. Admins can use the app to push news, updates, and content specific to their organization. It can also provide emergency contacts specific to different locations around the world. This app includes the ability to add an RSS feed of up-to-date information from reputable sources, such as the World Health Organization, the HSE, or some other local authority. And as part of this effort, Microsoft are also giving all Power Apps users temporary access to premium features. That is the Power Apps push notification, which we'll be using later. So you don't need any premium license to use Power Apps. To push this information to users. And then this will also last for the duration of the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, so what do we expect from today's webinar? So firstly, we'll be creating a centralized location to house your data. First, for the purpose of this demo, we'll be using SharePoint. We'll be configuring and publishing the Crisis Communication app, which end users will be accessing, and the Crisis Communication Admin app, where admins can add content such as company news and emergency contacts. Finally, we'll be creating a centrally managed team in Microsoft Teams, and we'll be embedding the Crisis Communication app into that Teams channel. Before we start the walkthrough on how to configure our Power App and all of its related content, let's jump into a demo. So let's navigate over to Microsoft Teams, where I've embedded the app inside of a Teams channel. Users can get all the information that they need, whether it's company news, helpful insights, links, emergency contacts, frequently asked questions. Additionally, a user can make a request to the central crisis communication management team and even send alerts to where they're working from. So for example, I'll go into company news. We can load up the news which the Crisis Communication Admin app has posted, and we can see all recent news articles. If we go back, we can, for example, share the status feature that lets you alert others where you're working from. For example, I may be working from home for the next few days, and I want the team to know. So if I click submit, this will submit it to your email address to just update that you worked, just to update yourself that you updated your work status. And if I want to share to a particular team, I can select that team and I can share. For now, I'll just skip. I can also set up my auto response to say that I'm working from home. I can also send it outside my organization, and then I can also submit it and skip again. So I'll skip for now. Within the Crisis Communication Admin app, which I've also embedded into a Teams channel, I'll just pull it up there very quickly. You can also do things like add company news, tips, links, and frequently asked questions. For example, if I want to let the company know the crisis has been averted, I can click Company News. I can create a news post, enter in a title, details, and a blurb, and click Save. But I've already done it before, so the crisis has been averted, and you can see the news article. If I head back to the crisis communication app, I can then see that news post within the company news section of the app. This will also put the content to the end users and also send a push notification to that Teams channel, so other teams will know that company news has been posted. Okay, so now let's learn how to configure and deploy this app. Okay, before we actually start creating and deploying the application, you'll want to go over to Microsoft GitHub repository, which has all of the assets that you need to get this app up and running. So let's head over there very quickly. So scrolling down slightly and selecting the download all assets, we'll download the zip file, which has all of the assets that you need for this webinar. So while that downloads, I'll click X because I have it downloaded already. We'll now head over to SharePoint. So we need to create a SharePoint list, or we need to create a SharePoint site to store all of our lists for the data of this app. So to do this, first head over to SharePoint, as I mentioned, click Create Site, click Team Site once it pops up, and then you can give your app. You can then give your site a name like the Crisis Communication app. For this demo, I will be using Crisis Comms Demo, as I know it should be free. You'll want to set the privacy setting to public so other users can access the data. Once you're done, click Next. You then have the opportunity to add additional owners and members, but we will leave it empty for now. Once you're done and the site is finished creating, click Finish. Perfect, and there's your SharePoint site created. It's now time to create the list that will store all of the data necessary for your app. So we have created a flow which will make this process easier, which will create all the necessary list inside of the asset folder to automatically do this for you. To do this, go to Flow. So emea.flow.microsoft.com. I'm already signed in. Select Import. Dismiss. And once this loads, you'll want to navigate to the zip file which you recently downloaded and click Upload. So if I navigate to that download file that I just did, I navigate to Deploy SP Lists, click Open. And while this is uploading, we will then need to configure our connections for the app. This should take a couple of seconds. Perfect. Now, we need to configure the connections so Microsoft Flow can connect to our SharePoint. So what we need to do is select during import. Because I already have a connection open, I select it, click Save, and select Import. Once it's imported, you'll have a success screen where you can select the Open Flow button directly to open your flow. Perfect. So click Open Flow. So once you're on the edit screen, you can now see all the steps that are used to create the SharePoint list. To configure this flow to work on your actual site, you want to adjust some of the variables in this flow. So once it loads, first open up the variable target site for list card, as we can see here. We select it, as you can see, it's not pointed to our SharePoint site. So what we need to do is head back over to our SharePoint site, copy this link, and paste it in the value field, and click Save. Once it's done saving, you want to go back, click Run, click Continue, and click Run Flow. Finally, click Done. Now, I have noticed this can take up to a minute to run. Once your flow is done, we'll go back to SharePoint and we'll see all the new lists that we've created. Perfect. So our flow is now done. So we'll head back over to SharePoint, click Site Contents, and we should see all the lists and libraries created for us. So if we click Company News, we can see all the fields that have been created which are needed for the app. Now that we've created our SharePoint lists, we can now go ahead and start importing the apps. So I do not need this tab open, and I don't need this tab open for now. Also close GitHub and Teams. So let's head over to Power Apps. So just like when we imported Flow, you want to go to your lists of apps and select Import Canvas App. This will take you to a similar screen where you can upload the crisis communication.zip folder. And click Open. Once you're done importing the app, you want to update the connections once again. Should take a couple of seconds, and then we select Import. Perfect. And once again, we configure our connection for each. Click Save and Import. Once it's done, we can then open our app in the Power Apps Studio. Essentially what this part is doing is we're configuring that the user I'm using can connect to Microsoft Teams, can connect to Office 365, and connect to other connections which we have set up for the app. So now that it's done, we can select Open App. This will open the app in the Power Apps Studio. And now in a couple of seconds, we'll get a box of connection dialog. So all we want to do is just click Allow. Perfect, click Allow. So the first thing we need to do with the app is we need to update its data sources to point to the SharePoint site which we created a moment ago. So once this is done loading, we'll want to head over to Data Sources button at the side. Close this, click the Data Sources. So as you can see, this is pointing to Microsoft.SharePoint.com, which is not our tenant, so we will click Delete for each one of those. And once it's done, we will click SharePoint in the bar, and we will search for the site we have just created. So we will just copy our site in, click Connect, and select all the lists and libraries that were created for us, and select Connect. Perfect, and that is our user crisis communication app finished. So what we need to now do is click File, Save, and publish the app. So don't worry at this stage if the app looks blank. That's because we still need to update the admin application. So we'll close this for now. We've already saved and published it, so we can click leave. So we now need to go and set up the admin app so we can create the content for this application. To do that, go back to powerapps.com, select apps, select import Canvas app, select upload, and now we want to do the crisis communication admin app. So once this is done importing, this doesn't have any connections, so we can select import straight away. Perfect. Once again, select open app once everything is configured correctly. Once this is all loaded, once again, select allow once you see the connection dialog box. And then we'll need to go in once again and delete all the SharePoint lists to connect to the correct data source. Getting things ready. Click allow. Now, to finish loading, we'll click data sources. We can see that these are the SharePoint lists, so we will go ahead and remove them once again. Remove, two more, remove, and finally remove. Once again, click SharePoint to connect to our SharePoint site. Select the connection, back over to our SharePoint site, copy the link, and paste it in. And connect to all of our SharePoint lists and libraries. Now, perfect. And then that is the admin app configured. So we'll click save and publish. Once it's published, we can close this tab and open up the app for real. So we can go select apps. We'll actually refresh this so it shows up at the top of the lists. So let's go ahead and learn how to use the admin app now. Select Crisis Communication Admin App. This will open the app as if you were a user. Okay, so now that you're inside the admin app, you can use this to set the admin settings, company contacts, company news, helpful tips, links, and frequently asked questions. We're going to get started, however, with the admin settings, since these are the most important. Okay, once you're on the admin screen, you can set basic information like the admin email, address, and your logo URL. So for now, I'll just use the user I'm using. .com. We'll leave the logo URL for now. The AAD group ID allows you to set the ID of the group that you want to send push notifications to with the flow that we'll be creating just later, a little later on. So to get your AAD group ID, go to portal.azure.com. So let's head over there. So once you're here, we'll sign into the user account. Sign in once again. We will want to go to Azure Active Directory. Select groups. And then select the group that we want to send push notifications to. As you can see, I have a group already called Demo Crisis Comms, as it created one when we created our SharePoint team site earlier on. So what we want to do now is copy the object ID of that group, bring that into Teams, and Flow a little later on will copy this object ID field so it knows which group to send emails to, or push notifications to, sorry. The app URL is what's used by the Flow to push users to the app once they click on the read more link. To get the app URL, you want to go to back to Power Apps, select the Crisis Communication app, select Details, and copy the web link URL. And paste that into the app URL feed. The government RSS feed allows you to populate the world news section of the application. So to get this field, find an RSS feed that you want to use, like the WHO news, and copy and paste the URL of the RSS feed in. So I have one here. So essentially what an RSS feed looks like is a load of messy data, but we don't care about that right now, as the app will make it look nice. So I pasted that in. So our notification method, we have 3 options here of how we want to be notified: emails, Teams notification, or push notifications. We will set this to Teams notifications. And lastly, our bunch of feature flags that allows you to turn on and off various features inside of the app. Since I want to use all of the features, I want to turn on all of the flags. Finally, once you're done setting all of this information, you can click Save. Submission was perfect. So the other sections of the app allows you to set the content inside of the end user application. So it's pretty simple to use. Simply want to select on one of the options, select Create New Post. We will add a title. We'll add some details, just as an example. Text is very small, so I'll click and expand it to 26. And we'll add a blurb, and this is what the user sees. It's kind of like a subtitle. So we'll click Save, and we can see it there. So once you're done filling out the details, you can click Save. This will drop you back onto the original screen where you can see your new information being created. Once you're done filling out data for your app, now it's time to test the end user application to make sure that everything looks great. So we'll keep the Crisis Communication app, admin app open. We'll go back to Power Apps and select Apps and select our Crisis Communication app. So the most important thing to test is to make sure that your content is coming through correctly. To do that, select on items like company news, as we know we've set content for there already. Company news, and we should see our content which we set in the admin app, which we do, and we can see our blurb, and then we can see our details which we set. Essentially repeat for helpful tips, frequently asked questions, links, and emergency contacts. Now that we have the app working, we now want to create the necessary flows to send out notifications to end users. So let's head back to, we'll close these off for now. We'll close Azure and we'll open Flow. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is import our flows. So again, we'll go back to Flow, select Import. And once this is loaded, we will select Upload and select our last flow which we need to do, the Crisis Communication News Notification.zip. Select Open. Select Open. Once this is fully imported, we will need to update our connections. So I'll do that very quickly. And save. Now there's one thing to note for this section. The Power Apps notification connection needs a new connection set up. So we'll select Create New. We will select Create New Connection in the top navigation here once it loads. New connection. And we'll search for Power Apps. Power Apps notification. Now here we'll copy in our target application. So we'll head back over to Power Apps. We'll select Apps. We will navigate to the Crisis Communication app. We'll select Details and copy the web link URL into that field. Great. This will create that connection. We can close this tab, head back over to our Microsoft Flow, refresh the list, and we can select the connection which was just created. Select Save, and we will import it. We'll close this tab as it is not needed for now. Again, once it's finished, we will select Open Flow, and we will have to edit one or two of the cards which are in this flow as they point to the wrong SharePoint site. So it should be done any second now. Perfect. Select Open Flow. This will open the edit screen. Okay, perfect. So we need to update these two cards, the when a news item is posted card and the get admin config setting card. So we'll expand this. We'll remove both of these. So we will paste in our site address and we will select our company news list that was created. We'll do the same here. Paste in our list. Paste in our list. And we will select our admin setup list. Perfect. We will select Save. And once it's saved, let's go head over to the other flow. And that is the, oops. Let's head over to the other flow, and that is the crisis communication.request flow. So we'll select that. Let's open the edit screen. Okay, so there's two things we need to populate here, and that's the team ID and the channel ID field. Okay, so essentially what this is the team ID of the Microsoft Teams team that we have created and the channel ID of the channel where we want to send the help request to. So let's head over to Microsoft Teams. Once this is loaded, we'll need to create a team, or you can also join a team. So let's create it from an existing Office 365 group. And we should see our, what do we call it? Crisis Comms demo. So let's select this one and select create. Perfect. Now our team is created. So let's, while we are at it, create a channel called help request. Help requests. And let's keep the privacy to standard and select add. Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned, we need the team ID and the channel ID. So the easiest way to get that is, let's open a notepad or any text editor. Let's right click, or let's left click on the three dots and select get link to channel and select copy, and let's paste that in here. Okay, so the team ID is essentially everything after the group ID equals and before the @tenant ID. So let's copy that and paste that into our flow. Perfect. And let's head back over to this. And the channel ID is everything after channel / and it should end in TAC v2. And let's paste that in there. Okay, perfect. So let's click save. And once it's saved, let's go back to my flows. Okay, so the first one sends out a notification whenever a news article is created, which we'll do in a second. So to test that, let's head over to the admin app. And we will add in a company news post. So let's select company news. Let's create a new post. And let's add in some details. Perfect, and let's paste that in. And to make it look nice, let's just increase the font size to 26. And let's click save. Okay, perfect. So our submission was successful. Let's head back over to our Teams channel. And as you can see, we just received a notification. So let's go to that notification. And it just says Crisis Communication app now sends Teams notification. So that can be helpful to the Crisis Communication admin team, and they can manage all notifications that are sent out, and they can also be notified once company news is posted. Okay, perfect. So now that we've tested that works, the last thing you want to do is make the app more discoverable in Teams. Oops, I closed Teams. So let's head back to Microsoft Teams. To do that, we will, for the sake of it, create 2 channels within that team we created. Okay, so let's go to 3 dots and let's go add a channel, and let's call it the Crisis Communication. Click add, and then the Crisis Communication admin app. Perfect. So those channels are created. So now we head back over to Power Apps, right or left click on our app we want and select Add to Teams. Select Download App. Let's show in folder. Okay, and let's head back over to Microsoft Teams. And then we want to select the plus button, select Manage Apps, and let's upload a custom app down in the bottom right here. Okay. And we'll select the zip folder, which was just downloaded now. Click Add. Perfect, our admin or our communication user app is there. So let's go back to this channel and add it in. And let's post to this channel so users are notified that the app has been added. Okay, perfect. Now let's quickly head back to the admin app and do the same. Admin app, download, close. Tab back to the communication admin app, plus button, manage apps, upload a custom app, and then select the Crisis Communication admin app, which was downloaded for us. Select add. And now the two apps have been uploaded. So let's add this one to the channel also. The admin app, perfect. Save, post to the channel once again. Perfect, so the apps have now been added to our centralized location, the Crisis Comms demo team, where users can access. Let's, for the sake of it, add in some company contacts. Create new contact. I'll add in my name, my email, .com, and our country, Ireland. Business phone is +353. We'll just add in a load of zeros and we'll click save. We'll click back and add in a link. How to wash your hands correctly. And then we'll route the user to YouTube. And obviously this can be a better link to point to an actual video. Click save. We'll head over to our Crisis Communication app, select our tab where the app is. And once it's loaded, we can select, close this. Once it's loaded, we can select our emergency contacts, which we just set. And you should see myself and the country. And if there is more countries, you will see more of a drop down here, which you can then expand and increase. We can also go to links. And we should see how to wash your hands correctly. And then that will open YouTube. Perfect. Now that you have all this information, you should get this solution up and running in your own tenant. Thank you for joining this webinar on the Crisis Communication solution. I hope it will help you and your company in some way, shape or form. Thank you very much for joining and hope to talk soon.